Hello guys, my name is Cedric, and today I'll be walking you through the process of deploying routers and making VoIP or Voice over Internet Protocol phones operational using CME, Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express. So I'll explain the basics of VoIP, the infrastructure required, and why CME is a good solution in certain scenarios and the technical commands used to configure it. By the end of this demo, you should be able to make phones successfully calling each other. So first, I'm gonna start with the basics, right? The VoIP. Unlike traditional telephony, it uses like a switched network. It transmit VoIP transmits voice calls over data network, like internet or just a private network. So the key components that you would need, obviously a router with CME capabilities. This will be the processing agent and it will be handling the routing for phone calls. And obviously IP phones. In this case, I will be using a Windows VM with phone with the Cisco IP communicator to act as IP phones in real life. So this setup will ensure that phones can register, communicate, and route calls effectively. So first, what is CME? So Cisco Unified Communication Manager Express, it's a call processing system that runs directly on Cisco routers. It's cost-effective solution for small to like medium-sized businesses. So it's appropriate when you have fewer users, like let's say under 200, and you need a simple and locally managed phone system. It may not be suitable for huge organizations like an enterprise or those requiring advanced features like video conferencing or centralized management. So the configuration in CME, in order to actually make the phone calls, we need the router, right? First of all, you gotta give each router's IP. For this, R1, I gave it the IP of 192.168.56.42/24, and R2, I gave it an IP of 192.168.56.43/44. So make sure they are able to communicate with each other. If, otherwise, nothing will work. So first of all, in order to actually register the phones, set everything up, you need to go into telephony services, right? You gotta go into telephony services in the configure terminal mode. This enables CME features on the router. Telephony services enable CME features on the router. So first, you would specify the numbers of phones you will support. So max DN, like any number 10, 20, 500, max E phones 500. This reserves space for up to 500 extensions. DN is extensions, E phones is the actual physical phones. So first I set up the DN, so directory number for the phones like this. So ePhone DN1, which is connected to this phone, you would give it the extension number and a name. So we assign phone 1 with a number of 7842 and phone 2, since I have two routers, I set up the second phone on this router. So I did the same configuration. I added the IP source address, which I forgot to mention. This has to be included on the configuration for your router. It is the IP of its router, the source router. So I did the same configuration, dial the directory number 7942 for this phone. So next, using MAC addresses, right? The MAC address, you link the phone to the extensions. So ePhone 1, MAC address, and then you get the MAC address of the phone. In this case, it's the MAC address of the PC. The MAC address of the PC, this. And then you assign it. You assign button. Button 2, 1, meaning it's using line 2. So button 1, 1, meaning it's using line 1, line 2, line 3, or so on. This ensures the phones are mapped to their respective numbers. So now that every you did this configuration, the phone should be registered, but it's registered. It won't make any phone calls yet. In order for it to make phone calls, you will need dial pairs to handle the call routing within and outside for the network. For internal calls, it's very simple. It's a very simple configuration. You would configure dial pair voice and a number VoIP destination pattern, which is any number, but the dot represents any number. 7 represents the first number, so I can only call numbers, directory numbers that starts with 7, a 4-digit number that starts with 7. And then the session target, which is the IP of R2, and vice versa. This handles the call routing within the organizations. So now that the setup is complete, if you make a phone call from phone 1, so its directory number is 7842, and the directory number of phone 2 is 7942, I will be making a phone call to the other router. As you can see, it is ringing. It is that simple. In conclusion, oh, I also forgot one more thing. I have to show my dial pairs. Show dial pair voice summary. As you can see, it is indeed making phone calls on R1, dial pair voice summary. The destination pattern, which is 7942, IP of R1, and here is the DNS that we need. So yeah, DNS configuration, the active dial pair on the router. Thank you. Simple. In conclusion, the entire process of deploying routers and configuring phones with CME is very easy, it's reliable. That's all. Thanks for watching.